competitive manure, a beer war, and the NFL starts as of last night. Welcome to Friday on the Fly. Thank you for joining us wherever, whenever you are listening. This is kind of a special edition, isn't it, Tomas? Because we are here at the Wingate location.
We're here sitting in
Where
former
really
Kenneth Bain's office, now Patricia Bain's office,
Right.
and that
Yes.
very nostalgic sitting here
Indeed, I used to sit here as a little pup, wanting candy
as a wee lad.
and running around causing problems, running up the hours on the four-wheelers we used to sell, and all that good stuff.
Where's the peppermint stripes? That's what we need.
Yeah, I remember the white chocolate bars, the Hershey bars. I never understood why it had to be the white chocolate instead of just the chocolate with milk.
And there's still candy
Yeah,
here
still
because we've got the little candy boxes at Wingate and Crawford.
It's still here.
Still,
Let's be just real about it. It's still here because Patricia Bain is still here. So
that's right. Yeah,
it's still here. So this is a little bit nostalgic. Sitting here at my grandpa's desk.
Still have the wood paneling on the wall, so
Indeed.
it's a lot of cool pictures.
Yes, indeed.
It's exciting to be here, though.
It is. So anyway, enough of the nostalgia. You can check out the video version of it if you want to see a little bit of the office, and not as in with Michael and Jim and all those guys, but the office here at Wingate.
You can check that out too. It's
cool. Right. It's pretty funny. So we have competitive manure. Tomas, get us up to speed.
Yeah. So an article from AgWeb. Mike Operman has this article, came out yesterday. There's a competition. That's why we chose to talk about it. It's pretty interesting. It's a manure innovation competition. So there were 63 companies that submitted proposals to be chosen in the Manure Innovation Challenge by Yield Lab Institutes, and they've selected 8 companies, and their proposals are pretty interesting on what they're trying to do with manure. But essentially what they're trying to do, and I'll quote this article, is each company brings an innovative, scalable solution that can help make manure more valuable, sustainable, and manageable for farmers. So we've talked about technology a lot, and there's a lot of articles about how technology is changing within agriculture, and it's not, exempt from the manure side of agriculture as well. That these tech companies are trying to find new ways to not only manage the manure, but make it more valuable to the farmer.
All right. So there's, it was interesting having had 63 applicants, 8 of them being chosen. And you want to give just a few of the examples here of what some of them are doing?
You can. I can't say most of their names from these.
All right. Have you I kind of spaced out on a thought there for a minute. Did you mention any of these specifically?
No.
Yeah. Okay. So Biomass Controls, PBC has developed a transportable biogenic refinery and a software platform, Kelv-In, to control and remotely monitor pyrolysis to reduce volume, produce thermal energy, and recover nutrients as pathogen-free biochar from manure. So, to you 3 nerds who may be listening, you can be all excited about that because I'm not going to go into it because I don't understand half the words I just said. Let's see. Another example is Chonex? Conex? I'm going to go with Conex. Surely they wouldn't call themselves Chonex. Anyway, has created an FDA-approved process using black soldier fly larvae to turn chicken manure into organic fertilizer and a high-protein poultry and aquaculture feed. Did that just say feed? So they're turning poop into food?
Mm-hmm. It sounds like.
As long as it doesn't come down to humans.
Do you eat the chickens?
Well, yeah. So anyway, Into Applied has developed a technology that allows farmers to add nitrogen from the air to manure and converts the ammonia in the manure into ammonium nitrate, creating a valuable fertilizer. I did read that before, and I thought that was interesting because you already have it. The ammonia can actually cause a problem potentially, and instead turning it into ammonium nitrate being a very good fertilizer. I just think of ammonia being a problem in a very small context, by the way. That was when I used to work in a horse barn and you had to clean out the stalls, and it was just it would become a terrible just smell and everything. So
check this article out. It's really interesting.
Yes.
And you can read about all the different 8 companies, and we'll see what it doesn't say in this article what they receive if they win this contest. I assume it would be that their idea gets funded so
Yeah,
they
it has to
can
be money of some sort,
yeah,
whether
so they
it's
can
a grant kind of thing or whatever.
continue to
Yeah.
embrace that technology and push it forward.
I'll
But
tell you what. I'll tell you who's not getting embraced, and that's Bud Light right now by
and
Miller's Core and Coors Light. Did I say Miller's Core? Is that right?
yeah,
Is that their
Miller
actual
Coors.
Miller Coors? I just say Miller, but I never. Anyway, so Anheuser-Busch got penalized, Tomas, for using corn syrup in their. I remember seeing a few of these commercials. I thought they were pretty funny, but evidently Miller and and Coors did not find it funny. Yeah,
They came out around like March Madness time this last year,
yeah,
and the big campaign. If you haven't seen the commercials, go to YouTube, watch them. It's they're pretty entertaining. They're medieval commercials, medieval times,
yeah.
with the king and Bud Light and driving this giant barrel of corn syrup around.
Yeah,
And
it is
it
pretty
caused
funny,
a
I
lot of
think.
controversy when it first happened, and evidently they've been in litigation for some time. Miller Coors has sued Bud Light for false advertising,
Yeah,
and this isn't unique to this scenario. They sue each other all the time, but it's pretty interesting how
right.
they're talking about corn syrup in positive ways and negative ways. You know, there's high fructose corn syrup. How do we use it in the anaerobic digestion process to the fermentation.
You're pulling out big words, Tomas.
I'm reading from the article, so don't get too impressed.
So, to quote the article, which is by the Chicago Tribune, by Robert Chanik, I think, it says a substantial segment of consumers would infer that Bud Light's principal competitors contain corn syrup, especially after a $100 million television and print campaign misleadingly suggesting the same thing, the judge's order said. So yeah, there's been great dispute. What I do notice here is the absence of old Samuel Adams, because he's too classy of an individual to be in this.
Yeah, they're not the big domestic.
What's your favorite out of the three there, Tomas? Let's put you on the air with it. Bud,
My
Coors,
favorite
Miller. Yep.
out of those three would be Bud Light.
I like Bud or Coors. I think I'm more Coors personally.
Really?
So yeah. Ever since I think it probably has to do with my brother. It's such a weird avenue. My middle brother used to watch NASCAR a lot, and one of his favorite guys was a Coors guy, and so I think it just came from there. And probably because it's in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah,
I think it's Denver, right? Anyway,
give me a summer shandy.
speaking of which, a little potential preview. So this is tentative right now, but at the end of this month, there is a little event. There's really going to be a lot of them all over the U.S., but called Oktoberfest, right?
Yep.
And at the end of this month, particularly in Crawfordsville, there will be a big event put on specifically by a brewing company called Backstep Brewing Company. Mm-hmm. And we may very well have the head brewer from there. They've actually won numerous state competitions, medals. They've won, I think, a few first place, a couple second place in a relatively large competition. So anyway, they have great beer. We may actually have the head brewer on the main episode of Plow Talk at the end of the month. So look forward to that. Again, that's tentative. It's not completely settled. I've been talking with the guy. Moving on. But any last comments there?
Nope.
All right.
I'm excited about Oktoberfest, another
yes,
classic.
Yes, indeed. So the Whiplash segment for today, we're talking about what everybody in the U.S. is probably getting all rallied around, and that is the National Football League.
Yep, football is back, everybody. Get excited about it, and if you're not excited...
which would be me.
Matthew and I have great conversations about football because he really couldn't care less. And,
no, I couldn't care any less.
I'm much more a baseball fan, but football does occupy the wintertime since baseball is only 162 games.
Let me though just dispel any belief that I just absolutely hate the NFL. I used to love the NFL, especially when we had Peyton Manning at the Colts. We had Marvin Harrison. We have Edwin
Edgerrin.
I can't remember how to say his first name. James, running back. Those were the days when we would always get stamped out because Manning would freeze up during the postseason against the Patriots or something. And hate the Patriots. I'll throw that out there. So I'm a true Colts fan. But not a true Colts fan in the sense of having kept up. I have not been at all in the Luck era. So all the way up to his recent retirement, I've I never knew Luck. I have no attachment to Luck. My attachment was to Manning. When he went to Broncos, that was kind of the end for me. So
I'm going to say most fans don't have an attachment to Luck now either because
yeah,
of that recent.
yeah. Although that guy,
retirement.
I mean,
That's been quite a
not to divert into that
controversy.
whole thing, but it sounds like he's got some good stuff going for him. Here, he's pretty well a genius in architecture, and can do
he's
do
going to
whatever
be
he wants.
successful in whatever he wants to do. So.
That's the way to go, personally, to me. Like, who cares what everybody else thinks? If you've got a career outside of that and you can have a good time not getting nailed by your blind side and getting injured all the time, why not do it?
It's interesting. So we focus a lot on money, right? If he was
Right.
if he was truly in to do whatever he could for the most money, he would have stayed.
Yeah, $500 million or something like that, right?
Yeah, $500 million he left on the table to go do something different.
I like that.
That's
I like him more now, having never known him as a football player. I like him more now just for that. Anyway.
Yeah, and it says something about the NFL. We can pay as much money as we want, but at the end of the day, the game needs to be safer, needs to be more entertaining. But going back to last night, so this is the 100th season of the NFL. This was the 199th meeting between the Chicago Bears and the Green Bay Packers.
Was it really?
They'll meet for the 200th time.
Later in the season?
Later in this season. Yep, they play
So it's
twice
That's
every
kinda
year.
neat. Yeah.
And the reason they chose this game is because it's two of the oldest franchises. And when I woke up, because I didn't stay up for the whole game, it starts at 9 o'clock.
Right.
Kids,
Yeah,
bed,
we had to be
go to
here
bed.
at 6 in the morning. So.
Correct. It's early. So went to bed and thought, it's going to be a pretty typical game. You wake up and the score's 10-3. Packers win. It's like, that's kind of a traditional football score. It's really the last 20 years when the passing game has really developed and we get all these high scoring games.
Yeah.
It's kind of like baseball, right? We're hitting all these home runs. The
See, in
average
that
runs
regard,
are up.
I'll throw this out there. In that regard, it's actually scoring wise, it's more like soccer than people let on. If back in the day when it had lower scores, so it's
Absolutely.
the anticipation of that finally getting points on the board. I'm not comparing soccer necessarily. I'm just saying the low score aspect. Anyway, moving on.
And they had a real focus on running the ball. They weren't throwing the ball.
Right.
The only touchdown that was scored last night, Aaron Rodgers set that up with like a 50-yard pass.
Nice.
And it basically was just go down there and my guy's bigger than yours, so he's going to jump and catch the ball. So, but everybody's excited it's back. Do you have a fantasy football team, Matthew?
I think we both know the answer to that. And we both know the answer to whether I would ever have a fantasy football team. Funny story, by the way, listening to Jocko Willink, I bring him up a lot. It's as if I'm only ever listening to him. I promise that's not what I'm always doing. But he had a guy on who was a 50-year-old Navy SEAL, had been part of the teams. And he said Jocko asked him, because I guess SEALs evidently are notorious for if they don't have something to do, they go to the bar and they get in a fight. So, so anyway, this guy, he was asked by Jocko, what was your most worthless reason or your worst reason for getting in a bar fight? And he said, I don't know. I'd had a couple beers. And this guy has like a New Hampshire or New Jersey, accent. So you just have to listen to him to get the full gold of this story. But anyway, he's sitting there and he's like, he's a Patriots fan, so he'd probably punch me in the face. Anyway, he hears this guy and he's like, the Patriots are doing poorly or something like that, or whatever game's on. The quarterback's doing poorly, and some guy next to him is like, that's all right. He's not on my fantasy football team, so it doesn't matter. And he said for whatever reason that just
set him off.
Just set him off, and he just laid into the guy. Anyway. So that's my little fantasy football story, having never. I'm more in line with that guy. Not that I'm going to get in a fight over it like he did, but I'm more in the line of like, who cares? Anyway. But you do care, I imagine, Tomas. So go for it.
If I didn't have a fantasy football team, I probably wouldn't watch too much football because you have to have somebody to root for, and I'm a Colts fan, so I'll watch the Colts and do whatever, but they tend to let you down just like Purdue football does all the time.
That's another topic, right?
Yeah, we don't want to get into it. No, it's depressing.
The quarterback
that's
is
way
terrible.
too depressing.
Is that right?
Way too depressing. We're not going to get into that. We'll bring back Carter. He can talk about that.
Yeah, Carter can come on.
He'll get all fired up. But anyways, I have really terrible luck with fantasy football. So I draft
no pun intended.
Le'Veon Bell last year, and he sits out the whole year to get more money.
No
so
idea who that
got zero production out of him.
Feel bad for whoever had Kaepernick.
Got Antonio Brown this year, and now he's going to get suspended because he can't, play nice with his GM and says bad things about everybody and has frostbite on his foot. And doesn't like the helmet. So, anyways, I need to select different people, better people.
Gotcha.
Anyways, that's It's my 2 cents. I had Mitchell Trubisky, who's the quarterback of the Bears, and he evidently didn't do very good either. So off to a great start in the fantasy football realm.
So we have really competition all around. This was really without intention a competition episode of Friday on the Fly because we had the manure competition, a lot of crap flying, and then we had a lot of crap flying in the beer world, competition in the courts.
Yeah.
And we have one of the most popular in the world, really not as much as soccer, honestly, every 4 years at least.
In world popularity,
Yeah, in America for sure, in North America probably. One of the largest competitions out there. So anyway, hopefully everybody out there is enjoying life and the things that are happening therein this fall. That's what I'm excited for. When football comes around, the reason why I would get excited is because that's kind of the marker for fall is happening. And speaking of fall, right, Tomas, we got harvest coming up.
It's
for a lot of guys.
It's already started in a few places, but we're probably still 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks away from it being everybody's going.
Yes, indeed.
We got such a late planting season, but it is coming up.
It's going to be interesting to see. With we almost would be irresponsible to not mention this. I don't know. The Dorian hurricane, right?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that may shift weather cells and such. Even though it's in a position where maybe it won't hit us as much, in the Midwest as if it went up the Gulf or something.
Right.
But be interesting to see how that affects harvest out there, maybe on certain crops or even here. I don't know. I'm no weather genius, so I don't know how that could affect us over here. So anyway, all y'all out there, stay safe while you're driving. Remember, there's big machinery out there and there's cars wanting to get places. It's best not to have a competitive mindset in that regard. Just try to treat the other as you'd want to be treated.
If you live in Indiana and Ohio, and it's probably the same everywhere, there's still a lot of construction, so be safe.
Anyway, I'm dragging this thing out. You guys have probably already signed off. So we should probably do the same. So anyway, if you've liked this episode, please do check out the Facebook, Twitter page, retweet the episode, share the episode, please. That helps us get the word out that we have this podcast. And speaking of the regular podcast, a little preview to next week. Really excited about this one. We had an author, historian, photographer by the name of Lee Clancher who called in with my dad, Phil, and my brother, Jason, and I. And we talked about IH history. We really talked about the history of the tractor. He's recently authored a book called Tractor, and there's this long subtitle that's pretty creative. I liked it. But he's also written, or at least contributed to, these large books by Octane Press that are about red tractors, red combines, and red four-wheel tractors. And it's just a complete history. These things are massive. You could use them as a defense mechanism. Anyway, he's been into motorcycles. He's written or contributed to 30 different books. So it was really fun talking to him. He just has a mind for history and for the tractor. And we talked specifically about that, getting up to IH company history, IHC, and talked a little bit about JI case history and then the merger that happened in the 80s. And we got all the way up to talking about the importance of the Magnum tractor for unifying the two companies that came together. As you all know, I'm sure there was the front end was Case, basically, with the Cummins engine, a deal that had been made by Case, and then the transmission back was really IH. So that really unified the company in a way that I don't think it could have been unified otherwise. So check out that episode to land Monday. Other than that, hope you have a good weekend. Anything going on this weekend, Tomas?
Not that I'm aware of.
All right, let's get off this thing before I drag it off anymore. Have a good weekend. We'll talk to you next week.